Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. We're blessed today to have Seventh-day Adventists with us. Pastor John Smith's going to lead us in prayer.
Actually, Church of Jesus Christ of
Oh,
Latter-day Saints.
sorry.
No worries. Yes. Thank you. Our dear Father in heaven, we are so very grateful this day to be here. We are grateful for these good men and women that serve us, the citizens of Cowlitz County. We would ask that thy blessings be upon them and in their service and all that they do. We are grateful for those in attendance here today and the time that they have given to support our elected officials. We are grateful for the bounteous blessings that God has poured out upon us in this area and in this state and in this great country. And we ask that thy Holy Spirit can guide us in all that we do, that we can do these things in righteousness that may be pleasing unto thee, Father. And we love thee and we pray for thy blessings, and we do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you care to join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd entertain a review motion for the minutes.
Mr. Chair, move to approve minutes of May 5th through 7th.
Okay, we have a motion to approve minutes from May 5th to 7th of 2025. Any comments, corrections that we see? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. I'll run down through a consent agenda. Call for hearings. We have a call for hearing changes and updates to the music festival ordinance. This will be, this hearing will be held June 3rd, 2025 at 9:30 in the morning. We're updating ordinance that was put together probably back in the 70s when I may or may not have attended some of those. The major changes we're looking at in this thing is the big change in insurance requirements over the years and some state RCW changes. So we're trying to bring it up to speed. Call for bids. Once again, we're going out for call for bids for road servicing materials. It'll run May 1st, 2025 through April 30th, 2026. Call for bids is scheduled for June 2nd of 2025. This is a second attempt. If you remember last time we got two, we take everybody that will put a bid on that because it depends on what part of the county we're working in, where we'll take rock from. And we have two now, Toledo and Toutle, up in that area. So we're hopefully kind of looking for somebody down south that will put in for that too. Agreements, contracts, bid awards, personal service agreement with Children's Justice and Advocacy Center to reduce the trauma to children in our community by creating a solitary place for child abuse and neglect investigations. We've been working with this group. Total amount in this request is $81,944. We've been working with this since 2009. And basically it's when we have crimes against children, this is an organization that helps us do forensic interviews with those children, puts them in safe space and does that. Resolution, County Road Project number 819 for the Primrose Road Improvement Project to pave the existing gravel road with the light. I'm not going to say that, chip seal. I'll just say it that way. We have about 8 county roads that are still gravel. And this one it's gotten to the point where there's enough houses and stuff on there. It makes sense to chip seal this. One thing I will say about this, every we have a lot of gravel roads in the county. They're not all county roads. Just because it has a name on the road, it's not a county road. So if your road is gravel, don't expect the county to be out there to chip seal it because it may not be a county road. I live on one. We take care of it ourselves. So there's a lot of gravel roads. A lot of those are private roads, which I live on. But we do have 8 county roads that are still gravel. And so as we work down the line, we'll get those taken care of. But this one is scheduled for this year. Board correspondence, letter dated 4/17/25 to Cowlitz County Finance Committee, recommending Cowlitz County to issue bonds in behalf of the Cowlitz County Public Facilities District. Letter dated 4/30/2025 to Matt Bleich, National Resource Manager, Tacoma Power Company, Public Utilities regarding City of Tacoma Cowlitz River Project. This is a letter from Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to basically Pacific Power. We get copies of those. And then C, FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, notice dated 5/1/25 regarding the notice of schedule for the preparation of an environmental assessment for the Kelso Beaver Reliability Project. Vouchers last week. Voucher ratification for Drainage Improvement District number 1 of the expenses incurred in March 2025 of $11,263.30. And in regular claim vouchers in the amount of $4,586,546.48. That's consent agenda. Any questions, gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve consent. Last chance for questions, comments on that. Jim? Yeah. Make sure that little light's on, sir.
It's not like I haven't been here before. And today, gentlemen, is one of those rare occasions which I'm not going to pontificate on some action you've undertaken that's contrary to the best interest. Never mind.
Yeah.
You're going to be looking into children's safe space, basically. It was one of the topics.
Yeah,
dealing with
with the
children's.
Justice and Advocacy Center. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is a group of which I was part of for a long time. It was known as CASA in those days, court-appointed special advocates for children. They operate now as Children's Services of Southwest Washington. I actually would like to have you folks think about inviting some of their principals in and talk about that particular issue. They've got vast experience when it comes to children's abuse, crimes against children. And I think they would be a worthwhile group to come in and just talk about what they've seen, not this year, but for decades in the past. You might also think about Highlander Hope. They're a group on Kelso School District whose primary interest is in deterring kids from drug use, but they also have counselors and folks that have seen these things. I don't want to say frequently, but often enough to cause concern. So there's 2 valuable resources there that you gentlemen might consider inviting in.
You said, I'm familiar with CASA, but now they call themselves, you said Children's Services of Southwest Washington?
Right. Yeah, they had a name change a couple of years ago. But what they've seen, what they do when it comes to crimes against children, amazing stuff. And probably there's no organization or group in the entire county that better understands the issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else on consent agenda? Okay, we have a motion to approve. I'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We'll move into the motion item, building planning.
Morning, Commissioners. Tracy Jackson, Building and Planning. With me today is Adam Trimble, the Planning Manager. We're here today for a subdivision plat, preliminary approval for Whiskey Flats.
Okay. I have a question for you right,
Yeah.
right off the gate. I know, tell me about the notification process. We tried to expand that at one time and we got slapped because Washington State was pretty rigid on timeframes and
Correct.
stuff. But how much time are we required to give or which is by statute? Because I got people that got a card like yesterday about the meeting today.
Yeah.
And another gentleman that said he got it 2 days ago. So I'm trying to figure out that time frame. And I remember, Adam, we tried to expand that and our attorneys
Yeah.
come back and said, you got to be within this time frame.
Right, so I think you're talking about two things. One is there's no notification required for this meeting. This is a closed record meeting. It's a hearing
Okay.
amongst the Board of County Commissioners. At the Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission requested that I notify the neighbors when this agenda was set. So once
Okay,
this
so
agenda
normally
was set, I did
there's no
send a
notice for our meeting. There's
Right.
notice for the planning commission.
That's right.
meeting.
So the Planning Commission is holding the public hearing for this type of application. And so our county code requires a 10-day notice for that.
And that's a 10-day notice on that one.
And typically, there could be some other notifications if there's other environmental reviews involved in a project, for example.
And I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but, and it's within so many feet of the
That's right.
project.
And yes, our county code does require a 300-foot notification.
And we tried to expand that, and I think we tried to expand the time frame, and we got slapped on both.
Yeah,
Am
the
I
Planning
correct on
Commission
that?
worked with staff to develop an expanded notification. And yeah, you're correct. It was discouraged for various reasons, inviting other people who may or may not have standing into a process where a developer does have property rights. And so that was kind of the gist of the reason to pause those efforts.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Adam for the staff report.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So, and thank you for that introduction. So at the April 16, 2025 regular meeting, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on a 20-lot preliminary plat application for a development titled Whiskey Flats. The project will make use of cottage housing provisions in county code to construct single-family attached buildings where every 2 homes has a common wall, similar to a duplex, but on individual lots with private yard space. The 3.6 acre site will provide for common open space, private yards, parking, drain fields, and walking paths. After hearing a staff report and public testimony, the Planning Commission voted 4-2 to recommend the Board of County Commissioners approve the preliminary plat without granting a requested waiver for maximum unit sizes with the conditions and other modifications regarding street lighting, and based upon findings that the development is consistent with all applicable criteria for approval. And now the Board of County Commissioners consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission as a closed record quasi judicial decision. And so you have in your packet the Planning Commission meeting minutes, the plat map and photos of the site, the staff report, the preliminary plat application and narrative, written comments received for the public hearing process, and as well as additional application materials, including stormwater reports. And the recommendation is twofold. We've got the recommendation from the Planning Commission, which was to approve the proposal, the Whiskey Flat subdivision based upon findings and conditions, or approve based upon the findings and conditions recommended by the Planning Commission, and then also the decision as to whether to grant a modification request, allowing 1/3 of the units to have a maximum habitable space up to 1,400 square foot as recommended by staff. So we kind of talked about how this project makes use of those cottage housing provisions, and the cottage housing allows some flexibility in density, lot sizes, setbacks, unit styles, all of that to kind of produce slightly different or middle housing for the market. And in return, there is a cap on the size of the units of 1,200 square feet. Through a subdivision process, developers often find reason to request a waiver or a modification of our standards, and that can kind of be baked into the approval. So in this case, the developer requested a modification to go up to 1,400 square feet for a third of those 20 units, and staff was recommending approval of that. Planning Commission decided to approve it without the modification. And so you have kind of those two recommendations in front of you today. Approve as presented by the Planning Commission with the 1,200 square foot intact, or approve with the modification to allow some of the units to exceed and go up to 1,400 square feet.
We talked about that a little bit yesterday, and I reviewed some of the tape from the Planning Commission to when they approved that. And as we talked yesterday, I think when they developed that, they had to come up with the square footage, but I don't think there's any science behind the 1,200. I mean, I've been in a lot of those conversations where you said, well, we have to have a deal. Let's set it at 1,200. And if we think we need to adjust it, we can adjust it. And I almost guarantee you that was the type of conversation it was. So I personally would give the builder, if we approve this, the leeway to make that decision. I think what are you talking, a bathroom or something like that? You're not talking
That's right.
anything huge.
So yeah, for a portion of the units, up to a third of them, there was the request to go a little bit larger than the code allows.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna have probably questions here because just this, if this is approved and this is gonna be on city water, but it will have a septic design. Now, the septic has to come in and be designed when they start building. It's nothing that is designed right now. We have a concept. We know it has to be on septic, but then when the septic comes in and design, they have to take into effect soil types, all that kind of stuff. Is that correct? I mean, they're gonna.
That's right, yeah. And then the developer's done some due diligence. They're not obligated to share that with us at this phase, but I know personally that they've worked with the environmental health unit. They've done the test pits, you know, they've got experts involved in getting to this point already.
But when they actually come in for permits to construct something, that design has to be pretty solid, right?
100%,
We have
yes.
to know it.
Yeah, we have to have a feasible, buildable site before we can get to that point. So yeah, they will be demonstrating that they have the capacity to have the septic function for the proposal.
And I guess one of the points I'm getting to is our approval of this doesn't necessarily mean things are gonna just start going vertical.
That's right.
There's
This
still a
is
lot
the
of
preliminary plat.
work to be done in
That's
that.
right. Yeah, there's a second phase to this, which is the final plat. So with the preliminary approval, the developer is able to take this concept and construct the development, prove that all of the designs are going to work through the design review process, and then actually construct them. And at that point, they will be given final plat. That's what creates the lots. That's what allows you to apply for building permits. So
Right.
there's quite a few steps before we get to that point.
When we heard yesterday from Susan, our county engineer, on the redesign of the Gassman Road interface with West Side Highway. When does that come in? I mean, when they come in and when they want the approved plots, or plats, is that have to be part of that, or where are we with that?
Yeah, so staff worked with the developer on this. There was originally a proposal to dead end Gassman Road. And then through further discussion with staff, this current proposal was developed, and it involves the developer producing the design for that realignment so that Gassman Road has a better angle of intersection at West Side Highway, a safer angle. The design will be gifted to it will be retained by the county so that it can be constructed either through the 6-year TIF or with grant projects or
Right.
grant funds. But we don't know the exact date, but I think if it's on the 6-year transportation improvement plan, then that might be the timeline you'd point to. And I understand we do have Susan available online if we want to hear
Okay,
from her.
and maybe she can answer, because I'm making the assumption that, there's certain things when you come to an intersection, sight distance, I mean, she knows all that stuff. And I'm assuming if she approves this, whatever the builder ends up giving her, that it will meet all those requirements?
Right, it's going to be a design that the developer funds and pays for, but it'll be a design that the county can accept. So we'll dictate the terms of that design.
Any exceptions to that kind of stuff? Does that come to us, or do you guys make that decision? Or does she make that decision?
Yeah, that'll be the jurisdiction of the county engineer since it's a public road and intersecting a public highway. So, yeah.
Okay.
Adam, real quick, yesterday, I believe you said that the square footage in the garage is not included in that 1,200, is that correct? So do we know if the additional 200 is going into the garage square footage, or is it actually gonna expand the footprint?
Yeah, it's for habitable space within the unit. That's the term that we use in the code is habitable space. So that's the kind of the living area of the unit. And the request is to go from 1,200 to 1,400 square feet for a third of the units.
Does a development like this require or have a homeowners association agreement that has to be part of this?
It certainly does. This one in particular will have some open space and some amenity areas that the residents will need to maintain through an HOA.
Who decides what goes into that agreement?
The developer proposes it, but they're required to submit the document to the county for review before the final plat is granted.
County review is who?
The planning department with our legal assistance, yep.
Okay.
So we'll be looking to make sure the HOA covers all of the items that are commonly owned. Stormwater is a big one. We need to make sure that the HOA will remain responsible for any on-site stormwater that the county's not going to be taking over. So that's just one example.
Septic, is that part of HOA too? Do they
It would
take
be
care
in
of
this
that?
case, yeah,
Yeah,
each septic system will serve multiple units as I understand it.
yeah.
So that agreement would have to spell out responsibilities when there's problems?
Yes.
Okay.
That over time, we've learned that sometimes we end up taking those on.
Yeah.
Camelot,
Yeah.
other areas,
And
unfortunately.
I would distinguish, this is not that that type of a septic system, not the Camelot style or the,
Well, yeah,
it's
that's a
not
lot older. and-
right, it's not a compact treatment system.
Yeah.
It is on-site septic.
Talk to me about traffic. What was done? Is it to the point where there were studies done, or did they ask for studies, or where are we at with that?
Yeah, my understanding was the county didn't initially require a traffic study for the West Place subdivision. However, as part of the public hearing process, it was a requirement. And so the developer did produce a traffic study for the West Place subdivision, and I have a copy of that now. In this instance, the county engineer with those modifications to Gassman Road determined that that would be the mitigation for traffic, and that will be the safety improvement that mitigates the impact of traffic of this development. And I believe we have Susan available if we need to hear more on that.
Okay. It's always tough because I drive that road every day. It's hard you can't do these things without affecting something. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And nobody wants to see where you end up like Lexington, right?
Right.
You know that. So it's always one of the things I try to be cautious about, and how much that adds. We were talking yesterday, if it's 20 units, maybe it adds 40, maybe 40 more cars. I don't know what type of folks will be in those, whether they're older folks retired downsizing or they're young families or what the cottage industry attracts. But it will have some impact. And
Yeah, certainly. And the developer did make the case that this design, that these unit styles will appeal to maybe an older population, a population that may not be even owning two cars, for example. So
are there one-car garages?
there, yes, as I understand it, the preliminary plat envisions a one-car garage with a space in the driveway for an additional car. So two parking spaces off-street.
Are these single-story units, do you know?
Yes, they are.
And I had, is the builder here? Okay. The question I had yesterday, that, remember that quote? I'm trying to make sure we're not trying to impose any more than just having more homes on the people that live on Gassman. You know, and the quote I gave you yesterday was sent to me that I wanted to ask him. Now, if I can find it. Basically, that he wanted to get the large trucks off of Gassman. We have a shop down there. We have people there that have worked in the industry forever. I guess what I'm trying to do is get a sense that he's not reaching out to impose more than what I think is reasonable on the people that already live there.
Yeah.
Any sense of that?
No, I
for me?
understand that. And we talked about that, and what I think happened was in that initial design of this, the developer and with agreement of the county showed a dead end of Gassman where it hits West Side Highway at the north point. So it would terminate in a cul-de-sac. And the developer would have constructed
Oh,
that.
So you think that
And
worked,
so I
kind of
think
where
that,
it
yeah,
came
if you
from?
looked at that, you might conclude, oh, they're just trying to stop the truck traffic and make their development protected.
Or
That's
maybe
since
if you
been
did it in
cast aside.
Gassman, they didn't want him running through the development, go out the other side of Gassman to quick.
Yeah, so that's been cast aside. Gassman will continue to
Okay.
connect. And, you know, until that realignment is constructed, it'll look the same
Yeah.
way it does for the foreseeable future. So
Yeah, sorry about all the questions.
that's all right.
And the other things I've heard is fire concerns about density of cars and stuff and being able to access these units. Is that part of the plat process too? Before that's all finalized, doesn't fire get involved with that? I think
It
Mike
certainly
gets
is,
involved with
yeah.
that.
And so we have the fire marshal in our office, and so we're able to receive those concerns and address them immediately. The interesting thing about this is it is on public water, and we have hydrants on site. And you know, when you talk to firefighters, that they talk about how they will figure out a way, you know, if a car is parked or, you know, they will figure out a way to get to where they need to get to. So with the hydrants, with the modern streets, you know, this is going to be well served.
Yeah, well, one of those comments came to me from an actual firefighter, so I just want to make sure that, and I was pretty sure that I know we have the fire marshal down there and he communicates with these districts and that it will be part of the process before they actually get plat approval for doing that. Let's see if I got any. I know we have a couple folks here today that were at the planning commission, and I believe you guys have any other questions you want to hear from these folks?
I'm a little uncomfortable with the common wall building idea where you have two separate single-family units built on a common wall. Obviously, that's got to be the property line. Is this a common thing that, because I can't picture in my head other than duplexes and.
I know where you're coming from. Yeah, it's actually quite common now. I don't know that it has been historically, but It is a very popular product that developers are producing all over the region. And it allows a unit to attain a price point that's different than when you're constructing multiple single-family homes, each with their own siding and roofing and all that. So, I think it produces what we call middle housing. And often they say you're either renting or you're buying some large house you can't afford. Well, this is part of that middle housing solution. It's an option for folks who aren't quite in the market for their own house, their own large yard. All of that responsibility comes with it. So, the attached housing, condominiums, townhouses, those are all examples of products that people are shopping for and not able to find. And so this will be a new introduction for Cowlitz County and something that I hope will be successful.
What it kind of reminds me a little bit of, and I don't know how insurance companies look like on condos. The walls and stuff are insured different than you're inside because it's a common wall. And I would imagine it's beyond what I need to worry about here, but I think there's somehow the insurance companies, the way they do that, not sure. I think in condos, even the homeowners association part of your dues is for the fire protection for the outside structure, and then you take care of your inside stuff.
Well, I can just picture if that common wall is bedrooms on each side, it might not be that big of a deal, but if it's living rooms and one person's
Yeah.
half deaf and they got their TV turned up so damn loud, the guy on the other side's all pissed off. We're creating a problem from square one.
So, I'm not in the building side of things, but I've heard this said many times, and it's when you want that property line there, you do have to do extra construction. You have to do extra layers of sheetrock, create a 2-hour wall between the units. And so it's not quite like constructing a duplex because they want that property line there. So they do have to take some extra steps to produce a fire separation between the units. That's my understanding.
Does it also have a sound requirement for deadening?
Usually,
It does?
from the sheetrock.
Certainly the sheetrock would achieve some of that deadening.
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely.
You're going a little bit
However-
beyond my ability to answer, but yeah, I
Okay.
think we can imagine that, if you're required to produce that 2-hour fire separation, it's more than would be required with a duplex or an apartment complex.
Okay. I'll remind people, and I don't like this any better than anybody else, but this is a closed public hearing. So people that actually came and spoke at the planning commission are able to come up and speak today, but I can't take comments from anybody that was not at the planning commission meeting. I can't. It's pretty strong in statute and we've been slapped. So if I have people, and I know there's a couple here, if you want to come up and chat, you certainly can. If you think we've answered some questions, that's fine too.
No, but it's not really about whiskey frats. I just want to ask a question. It's not about that. Okay. Really? I would kind of prove it.
I would help. Hi,
Ju-
I'm.
Just is the green light on?
It's on.
Okay, perfect.
So I spoke at the last meeting and I'm just gonna reiterate what I spoke to the advisory panel, which Mr. Dahl covered a bit of it, but a lot of it we're worried about because we're on wells. Of course, all the neighbors around there have wells and they brought the city water out for the West Place subdivision that is already there. And we're kind of worried about the septic fields and this new, and they made an adjustment, I guess you'd call it, so they could do that on a half acre instead of a full acre or acre and a half, which is required for other places in the country. And so we're concerned about the septic fields there. And then this new place has 20 more units. And apparently they're going to have 2 large clusters of septic fields or 2 septic fields. But that's also going to be their open space, which is required for the county rules on cottage, or some, I don't know what county rule it is, but they have to have so much open space per unit. And he says he's covering that by having where the septic fields are be the open space for communal use. And septic fields, of course, you can't do a lot of stuff on. And if he's gonna have trails, I guess just paths through there will be the open space. I don't know, but that's a concern because there's 2 huge septic fields there now. And the open space thing, I don't know how he's gonna do that. And he says, oh, I'll do it. I might do this, I might do that. And it's like, what? And I guess, then if this gets approved, then he'll have a plan, but it's concerning. And the other issue is, of course, the traffic and road problem, which we've talked about a lot. And he has the traffic study now for that previous, because these are the same builder and they're same unit. So I talk about the previous subdivision a lot because it's the same guy and he said the same things. And he was supposed to have a traffic study when we met for those meetings. And the commissioners, I think, said, yes, we need a traffic study. I'm very happy that you don't have a traffic study. And then when we came to this new one, we're like, did you ever do a traffic study? And he said he didn't have that. Now he does. So I don't know if he got that recently, the traffic study for that previous thing, but they were supposed to have that before they built and stuff. And they didn't, apparently. I don't know, he had no study. And so we really want a very good traffic study on that. It's extremely dangerous road. And there's a blind corner there. He said he's gonna fix it, but he have a 6-year window to fix that, I guess, and will that happen? Who knows? They don't seem to have to come back and do anything if they don't do it beforehand. So that's a big concern. And one more thing. Oh, the goals of the cottage housing thing. Just a little one. It's supposed to build in places that already have facilities to decrease the need for expensive wells and expensive septic systems. And again, there is expensive septic systems. And eventually that will, of course, need to be changed. I'm sure when the city comes for the property and wants to do different things. They brought the water out and Castle Rock, I don't know what kind of deal there is, but they brought Castle Rock city water out there and they started drilling wells anyway for their agricultural, I guess you can use it for just your bushes and stuff. And I don't think the city's happy with that because I thought they had some kind of deal for having wells on that property because they're all wells now and they weren't supposed to. So I don't know who approves that or how that happened or if they just did it and nobody cares. But again, another exception to rules, I guess, which they're already this new cottage housing initiative or whatever it is. I don't know when that was put in place. It's fairly new. And so basically they're making a urban area there in the country, and they're still using some rural policies basically with the septic systems and stuff like that. So it's upsetting to us to have the urban, and it's in the growth planning thing, but it's not urban yet. And in urban, you should have a sewer system. So the septic, that's a problem. And then just one little comment on the notices again, because we do not get them in time. And I know you try, but it is very frustrating for us to want to comment on this and understand what's going in our neighborhood. We're right across the street. We have the property that fronts it on the riverside. Our family owns that whole section. So we're very impacted, and the people on Gassman Road. Yes, Gassman Road. And they're already parking on there. People from the houses now on that are already parking, and they have huge amounts of property. Everybody has a boat or an RV or something, and fitting 20 units in there with that many cars, and you could say it has 2 parking spaces. but they're like this. So you have a garage, single car, you can put your car in there, and then you can put a car behind it. So one car is always blocked if you're gonna have two. So they're gonna be parking elsewhere. They're gonna be parking on Gassman Road, and they are now, and there's RVs in the park, streets kind of, I guess you'd say, in the other development. So that's a big problem. And that's our main concern. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Wells, what's the do we know how many are, have they still drilled wells over there? I'm aware of one, I believe.
Yeah, we're aware of one. As our understanding was the soils in the vicinity are very sandy, well draining. It's been extremely difficult for residents to establish lawns. And then using that city water that made their development possible, turns out to be pretty expensive when you're establishing a lawn on a neighborhood scale. So, you know, it's property rights. Somebody drilled a well at their own expense. Staff has been working to figure out the implications of that. There may be some protections to the household plumbing that's required, but it's something that can be managed. And I think there'll be better communication about whether that's desired for this phase or not.
Yeah. So once they own the property, if they call up one of the well people and they want a well for their grass or whatever,
That's right.
the company, they go through a permit process to do it. Do we ever see that, or is it just something they do?
That goes
not-
through
I-
our environmental health unit, and then they send the information to the state. So that goes through our EHU unit on the first floor.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And we know that the well that was drilled, I believe, was for the common area for the grass watering. So we were told.
Is there a prohibition for putting wells in? By anybody?
That's an environmental.
Yeah, I don't know that I have an answer on that. You know, city of Castle Rock, I guess, was surprised. You know, the cost of building that public water system and then purchasing a house that's connected to it, that price is built in there. You've already paid a pretty steep price to have that public water and then to do the well. I think it was surprising, but I don't know that there's a prohibition. I haven't heard that directly.
Well, I wouldn't think it, you would have to go down very far to get water. When I was in high school living in downtown Castle Rock, I put in a I don't know, 2 1/4, 2.5 inch pipe. It only had to go down 8 feet.
Okay.
And I think we put a sand point in there and the whole thing was like 12 feet down and put a pump on it. And we ran water, we never ran out of water. And that's what we used to water the yard and the fruit trees we had. And I have no idea if it was legal then or not, but we ended up, I started about digging a hole and got into wet sand about 4 feet deep.
Yeah.
And at 6 feet, digging a hole, I was standing in water.
Yeah.
So we ended up putting in a well point,
My
sand point.
father-in-law lived on Maddox Road right across from the fairgrounds, and he had a well he used for his garden and stuff, but I think it was pre-existing. And when
Yeah.
the city provided water, he went on city water, but he still had that well.
Yeah, the economics make sense.
Ron, you didn't talk at the planning commission.
I just have a point of information, is that regarding, you've added another dynamic when you're talking about wells. The state ecology takes wells very seriously. Residential wells have certain criteria on them for residential use versus irrigation wells and other wells. So you better do a little study and get that into the regulations and the covenants of it, of what the regulations are.
Would that be something that gets it put into the homeowners association agreement? Do you know?
It certainly could be. These lots in this subdivision won't have any room to do a well on their own private yard area. If the HOA wants one for their common area, we've made it clear to the developer that that needs to be made part of their designs and permitted ahead of time.
Susan, or you on? I had a question if she's on.
Good morning.
I just heard when we, you have a requirement for him to, if we're gonna fix Gassman Road, and I heard he had 6 years to do that. Is that a time frame we're allowing him, or what? Are we making that a little, can we make that a little more urgent if they actually want to do that?
So you're talking about the connection on West Side Highway?
Right.
So the requirement would be he'd do the design and complete the design as part of his subdivision design and dedicate that right of way to the county. Then we would put that on our 6-year plan and start working on grant funding. If this
Okay.
goes through, there's currently a safety grant out because that's the kind of money that would be available to do the work.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna start looking into seeing if this would be eligible so we could keep it moving along.
Okay, that makes more sense to me. So he actually has to have the design in for the plats and all that to be, his plat design to be approved.
Yes,
Us finding the funding to make the change would be on our 6-year plan, and that doesn't necessarily mean 6 years. If funding comes through, we do it right away. It's just a matter of how it comes in.
yes.
That's accurate. Yeah, okay.
So once we get the funding, would that time clock start? If we got the funding at 4 years, would we be able to delay it to 6 years before we started, or are we gonna start it right away?
So we would start it when the funding became available, with county funds and the safety funds. So it's just a matter of how we're gonna pay for it once we have that design. And having the design makes it more attractive to granting agencies.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that he didn't have 6 years after approval to put his design together. I want to know that the design and he meets all the standards right off the bat.
That's the intent.
Thank you.
Susan, do we have what's our protocol with regards to once that design is approved? What's our urgency to find that grant funding? Do we have anything a mechanism that says this isn't going to sit on somebody's desk for the next 48 months before anything's done?
So our mechanism is as the grants open, we review what projects we have and we start making applications. There's a county road safety plan that just went in a couple months ago. And the state goes through those and selects off of those. Currently, there's also Safe Streets for All. Yeah. So that is currently, that's a federal program that is currently out on the street right now. I can look at the eligibility on that because those grants are due in June.
Anybody else? Yeah, come on. Sure.
I'm Sally's husband, Mike, and the question I have about the access road or the proposed access road is, will the builder be able to do his construction before that road's in? Commence construction and and build with a 6 to however many year construction schedule? And how does that mitigate the traffic issues,
Yeah.
associated with that?
I think from what I just heard, the answer would be yes, he would have that ability. He doesn't have the ability to start building until he has the approved design of what the road's going to look like. But he could start building before he probably would be able to start building before we found the funds to change the road to the design. The design has to be there, but the actual construction could be past that. That's true.
Cool. So in the event that road doesn't get put in, then what happens? We can submit a design, and if it never happens,
Yeah.
How do we deal with the traffic issues? And is there gonna be another traffic analysis done currently prior to this development being approved? A current one from 2025?
I'm not aware.
No, the development went through review with staff. Staff determined that this was the mitigation for the traffic impacts. So no study was required, given that this.
Well, the
this
mitigation, if the
was agreed
mitigation
to.
isn't done beforehand, how do you know it's gonna mitigate traffic?
So we rely on the expertise of our county engineer, who has extensive experience and an engineering stamp to make that determination.
This is circular logic. You don't know if the road's gonna be put in for sure. You're saying we may put this road in. We have a plan to put the road in as contingency to build this development, but we don't have a time frame to put the road in. Is this logical? You don't have the
Well,
money to do
yeah.
it and they're approving it? I don't understand the logic.
Yeah.
So
It's-
the,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
All right.
So
No,
the
I'm
only
just,
road that's not going to be put in is the change to the intersection. The other half-street improvements that are required on Gasman are going to be put in as part of the plat approval. So the way Gasman exists now is going to remain the same, except the half-street improvements in front of his property are going to be done to the point that it'll bend to do the 90. So it's only the intersection work that's not going to be done prior to homes being constructed.
and then will there be parking allowed on Gasman Road for excess vehicles, RVs, that kind of stuff?
So at this point, there is no restrictions on parking on Gasman Road. And that won't change as part of the neighborhood. So the side that the homes are going to be built on is going to be widened in front of those places. So that side of the street will be wider than the other side of the street.
So it will follow the same contour that is in the current development?
So the width will be wider because Gasman is a higher classification of roadway and is being built to county standards.
Okay, so it would mirror the southern part of the development then?
Yes, I believe so. I don't have the stuff in front
Okay,
of me.
right. And then the well issue, can't they? No. Oh, the question was, how are they gonna try to get an easement from the current property owners to widen the road?
No, because we're not going in that direction.
And then to the well issue, we attended the first Castle Rock meeting for the original development, and that was there will be no wells. That was part of that whole discussion. And then I know there are wells in now, and apparently there's a discrepancy between, who approves a well and the county. And couldn't there be CCRs requiring that they do not have wells for that development? So we don't have to worry about our aquifer, issues with the aquifer. I don't know that aquifer studies have been done, or if there's been any testing with the surface water runoff of the existing development. If any of the surface contaminants could be getting into the soil. I know there's not a retention pond, there's some type of underground system, but I'm not exactly sure what that is and how it captures, hydrocarbon, oils, greases and stuff coming off the surfaces. Because, hey, if everything works, it's great, but if there's a problem, then it's gonna be, if we contaminate the aquifer or have other issues, then it's gonna be lawsuits. And nobody wants to have to go through that. But that's kind of all I have. Anyhow, thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, so my understanding that getting the cross section or the intersection fixed is gonna be incumbent upon us once we have the design, as far as the time frame goes.
Yes.
So if it doesn't get done, that's on us, that's not on the developer.
Yes.
Sure.
So in that circumstance, how does that get mitigated? Do we have to sue Cowlitz County? Or the developer?
Well,
I mean, you're,
I've never, well, I've been here, I'm on my third year, but my experience with our roads and Susan is she stays with that list pretty well, and if funding comes in, they get right on it. I have not personally witnessed her abandoning any project. It's just it's more of a process of when funding becomes available for the project.
well, here's how it appears from at least where we sit.
Yeah.
We have a cottage plan, and at the last hearing, there were contingencies about that and the design of keeping it at 1,200. It's gone from a single structure to duplexes. So we keep doing this little shift on everything to accommodate this space. And maybe that happens all over the county, I don't know. But it would seem like if you have a plan and it's one of the first ones to do, you should maybe start with the concept of the original plan and stay with that concept versus doing all these little, okay, we're gonna make this a little different. We're gonna change the square footage. We're gonna make it a duplex instead of a single structure. We're not sure about the traffic. We may put a road in. We're gonna try to stay with the schedule if we have the funding. But we're gonna let the guy do what he wants to do because, obviously there's money involved in tax revenue and that sort of thing. But when it comes to the accountability aspect, everybody's going, well, we're gonna wait and do this here. We're gonna wait and we'll let them do this here. We'll let them put wells in because, an agency says we can do wells, but we're not, if something happens, it's always reactive. We're not going, well, if we take the common sense approach and try to make it sensible and logical, if we start with a plan, changing the plan at the start makes no sense. Granting something because a builder wants to do it. I've been in construction for 40 years. This is a little out of the box for a new concept. That's all. It's kind of frustrating because it seems like it's a moving target. We get the notice, I'm kind of going backwards, but we get a notice a day before about this hearing when they requested at least getting it out 2 weeks ahead of time. I don't know who does the mail, but the only people that can talk were at the last hearing. So there's maybe a half dozen of us and we still don't get the notice in time. So,
yeah,
but it almost looks like it's by design more than application. And, to a certain extent, we're the citizens that pay the taxes and do stuff. We could at least get the courtesy to have things, in a reasonable amount of time.
Susan, if this gets approved and moves forward, at what date, how soon do we start looking for funding?
I can start looking for funding now. Whenever this is approved, I can start looking for the funding. It would be beneficial to have the design completed, but I don't know when that'll occur. Just because we'll have a better cost estimate on how much it's gonna cost, and we have the design and we're ready to go.
But the design is required before it gets approved.
Yeah, before final plat.
Okay.
And I'll mention that a preliminary plat approval has a 5-year expiration. So they have about 5 years to get to final plat.
Has the builder given us any time frame as far as what he's looking at?
No, I haven't heard that they're gonna wait 5 years. I think that they're anxious to get started and much of their improvements are ready there. You know, Kyle Street's mostly constructed, so there's not too many barriers for them to move to final plat. They don't have they're not starting from scratch, so.
Pleasure. I would suggest if you want to put a motion on this, I would go with staff recommendation versus the other recommendation. Keep the lighting limited and a little bit of flexibility on these are, I tell people, these are the toughest things for me because I'm a firm believer. I stand behind people's property rights and being able to do with their property. I just firmly believe that everybody has a right to do what they want with their property if they're making that investment. The decision point is where does it cross over to where it becomes unreasonable for your neighbors? And it's always, it's one of the things that keep me up at night is trying to decide, have we crossed over reasonable? Have we not crossed over reasonable? You can't build something without affecting somebody. It's impossible. You cannot do it. I live on a dead end road and I've had 2 new places go up since I've been up there and it affects, and I get it. And I grouse about it. It's just very difficult to decide if we've crossed over unreasonable. I think there's some controls in place here to take care of some of the things I'm concerned about. I do concern about the septic stuff. And I know we've had to take some systems over at times because they failed, and I don't want to put the county at that point 20 years down the line. But then I know septic designers. I know one of them very well, and they do a pretty good job of designing these things much better than they did in the past. It's just a difficult. I'm just trying to. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just saying these are not decisions I take lightly. It's just very difficult. But we're at a point where if we want to offer a motion, that's the point we're at, so.
Adam, I have another question.
Mhm.
Is the cottage housing plan, is it designed to be flexible based on individual circumstances per development?
Yeah, many of the criteria are the lot size, the setbacks, the density, the unit type. That's built in, and the purpose statement describes that desire to provide flexibility in design and options to achieve this type of housing.
So there's not like a rigid code that says in order to meet these requirements, it has to be this.
It's written like most codes. It has design standards, and it'll specify where it's a certain standard or where it's not regulated when you're using cottage. And so then you combine that with an urban subdivision proposal, which has baked into it that modification request as well, because we understand that every subdivision may encounter something where they can't quite do the standard that way, but they could do it this way. They request the modification request. So that's how this is being brought to you.
And so it allows variances for mitigation on certain issues.
It allows variances from standards, yes. Mhm.
Ready for motion? I would I make a motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plat of Whiskey Flats with the staff recommended waiver request as explained in the meeting.
Okay. We have a motion to approve.
So I'm clear, that motion that we're voting on is with the staff approval, not accepting the 200 square foot addition. Correct?
Staff approval allows.
Allows the addition as it's stated on the agenda
I just wanted to make sure because I thought,
for up to 1/3 of the units.
oh, it was the building planning. It was the commission that said, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Any other questions on that? Okay, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved. Thanks for your work.
deliberations.
Yeah. We're way behind schedule. I know we have public hearings. Sean? I apologize, Sean, but I thought it might be run somewhat late.
Good morning, Commissioner Sean Riley, Public Works. Today, we have a public hearing on surplus vehicles and equipment for disposal. We have approximately 12 vehicles, ranging from some solid waste items, motor pool, ER&R. We have a variety of heavy equipment and light-duty vehicles. All of these have either reached end of life or have become damaged and not worth the repair on those vehicles. If there's any specific ones, we can go into detail on those.
Okay, any questions from us? I don't think so. We'll open public hearing on surplus and vehicle equipment disposal. If there's anything from the public that you have a question on this. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I approve the surplus vehicles and equipment for disposal.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the surplus vehicle and equipment disposal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, come on up. I know. Thanks for the patience, sorry.
That's okay. It was a pleasure watching the most contentious hearing based on Castle Rock history. Jason Lorraine with the Prosecuting Attorney's Office. We're here today for amending Chapter 613 of the Cowlitz County Code, Dangerous Animals, to provide hearings, examiner review, and determinations. A little over a month ago, we had a workshop with the new board, and the new board determined that it would benefit all parties if a hearing examiner were to hear any hearings regarding the determination of an animal being dangerous or not. That was in contrast to the prior board that determined that the founding of a board would be necessary. So based on that, I was given the task of going and amending 613, Code 613. I've provided that to commissioners, and now it's for this board to determine whether or not it's appropriate to amend Cowlitz County Code 613 to adopt.
I think we found through, not our experience, but Lewis County's experience, that the board was inefficient or tough to do. We don't expect a ton of hearings on this, right? maybe 3, 4 a year at max.
I think that's a good assessment.
Yeah, and so the hearings examiner, we already retain a hearing examiner for some building issues and this would, we contacted them and it would fit in their wheelhouse and they're comfortable with it. And it just seemed like it made more sense to us. And I think that was the gist. If I explained it wrong, I can be corrected.
That's the way I reflected.
Okay, I'll open public hearing for anybody from the public who has comments on that.
Just a general question. In the regulations, dangerous animals, is that just domestic animals, dogs, cats, or is that consider animals that fall under the fish and wildlife, cougars, bears, coyotes, other animals?
Is domestic,
What?
domestic animals.
Domestic animals. Okay. So how do we address the wildlife animals? Is that I know people feel obligated at times to protect themselves from a bear or a cougar in their yard, since Fish and Wildlife and our state and federal laws are protecting everything. We can't, they're not afraid anymore because the dogs aren't there to kind of give them a scare. So they're coming in. So normal people that feel defense necessary to put one out because they're endangered, the Fish and Wildlife will turn it into hell for them for that event. So I just wonder how that fits into our protection and community services.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this particular issue is with regards to pets, domesticated pets that are,
Household pets,
Yeah.
animals.
so that's a separate issue, Ron.
It is a
I
separate
agree.
issue
I agree.
entirely.
I just put that on the wavelength.
I think that's better addressed with Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
Any other comments on this amendment to chapter 613? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I approve the amendment to chapter 613 of the Cowles County Code for Dangerous Animals.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We'll ask for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jason, thank you for your help on this.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
No problem.
Time well spent. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, updates, and I see Lindy already left, but she had a question on the failed culvert on West Side Highway between Quick Road and not far from Quick Road. I saw Susan send a letter out to WashDOT to see if she could get any time frame on that, but I have not heard anything back, but as soon as, if we do hear something back, we will pass that along. Meetings tomorrow, Wednesday at 2:30, we have district court update. Remember, tomorrow night also is the candlelight vigil, 7 to 8 p.m. May 14th, 2000, R.A. Long Park in honor of fallen law enforcement. So if you have an interest in that, that's tomorrow. May 28th, the following week, next week, we have no meeting scheduled, right? Yeah. And then Monday we do, but not Tuesday and Wednesday. May 28th, Community Mediation Center will be in. Okay. If there's public comment on anything, it's your turn. You've been very patient and waited.
What's good? Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Jim Hill. I live at 1100 North 22nd Avenue in Kelso. Much to my neighbor's concern. That's a joke, gentlemen, to lighten the mood here. I'm going to start this off with a compliment to you gentlemen. As you are very well aware, Port of Woodland was going to do some things that would have been detrimental to the county. And quite frankly, some of you took the time and made the effort to see that that didn't happen. And those of us that understand the consequences of what was going to happen down there, I just want to say on their behalf and my behalf, thank you. So enough on that. There are a couple of concerns that I wanted to talk to you about today. You may not be familiar with the 25-year effort that volunteers and throughout the county made to create Tam O'Shanter and our sports facilities down there, what they are. But that's a remarkable facility. It's extraordinary in the Pacific Northwest, and actually it rivals anything that I'm aware of anywhere in the country when you take the totality of Chrysler Stadium plus Schroeder Field, the girls softball facilities and things. The volunteers and the folks that operate those organizations during the summer provide something very unique for kids. You know, it's pretty tough to get their heads out of their electronic devices, but when they're on those sports fields and engaged with the activities, they're not in those electronic devices, quite frankly. Over the years, we've been able, because our facilities are what they are, to actually hold significant tournaments, regional play. We get chosen quite often for regional tournaments, bring kids in from all over the Northwest, even down into California, and even Canadian kids come here. One of the stumbling blocks that we face at Tam O'Shanter is that we don't offer every amenity that's necessary to not just have regional tournament play there, but national play there. In 2019, I traveled and spoke with folks from Taiwan, KBR, that's, I'm sorry, Babe Ruth Baseball, and also in Korea. And in 2019, we had aligned sort of an agreement to have exhibition teams from those countries come here. And we were hoping maybe to even include the Philippines. COVID happened, and of course, we all know that that's ended any sort of that effort. We're going to renew that effort. I've been talking with KAL Airlines about transportation coverage, and we're making some progress. But gentlemen, there is one thing, one amenity we need there that's beyond the means of my city, Kelso, to provide, and that's a batting cage. A batting cage is not just for skill development, gentlemen. That facility means that we can reach out to national organizations and bring kids here to play baseball and softball. If you don't have that, the national sorts of activities just can't happen. I was part of the group that built the batting cage at Kelso High School, and that took us 5 years to get the money and finally get that thing up. But it's used by everybody in the community. The problem is we have far too many kids in our programs to schedule time in there. We need this batting cage, quite frankly. And let me tell you what it would do. If you want to increase tourism, involve sports activities in the summertime, and those folks are going to come. And if you have folks from across the country interested in tournament play, significant events, they're going to come. They're going to put tourism. I mean, the tourism, the potential of growth in tourism is enormous, and the return to our small business is huge. But it always comes down to money. And I would like you folks, because you have the ear, both of our state representatives and also the Port of Longview folks, you know, money comes from the state, can come from the state. It could also be in terms of what you folks could provide, and also from the port. And I'd ask you to perhaps even workshop it, allow folks from our sports activities to come in and talk to you, talk to folks in the community what an increase, a remarkable increase in tourism is going to do for us, not just Kelso, Longview. I mean, when we have a tournament, we put people in Castle Rock, we put people in Woodland, our motels are filled. We're going to have new motels and hotels that are going to be constructed in the near future. That facility is an economic driver. That batting cage can be an economic driver. And certainly it'll give our kids an opportunity to increase their skill level, but it's important. And if there's anything that you folks can do to help us secure the funding to make that happen, work in conjunction with the city of Kelso, the other entities I've mentioned, you know these folks personally at the state level and at the port and your own individual communities. So this is not just for Kelso Longview, folks. This is countywide. And then I want to say something else. I've been spending a lot of time in South Kelso on projects. You folks were key to the construction and making Lads and Lassies Park happen. And I know people don't know a lot about Lads and Lassies, but our community, Kelso, had no ADA compliant park for kids that need those kinds of play areas. And the folks in South Kelso asked me to come up here and say, gentlemen, thank you for that unbelievable commitment to making that park happen down there.
You have any, I happen to, I know we don't always agree, but I certainly agree with you on this. I think this is just be an added benefit to Tamashanner. You got any type of dollar figure that you're aware of, Jim?
Slightly over 200,000 is what we need. And the object here, we built the batting cage at Kelso High School volunteers. We know how to do this, and there's going to be sweat equity involved in this. You can't believe how much direct hands-on infrastructure construction that volunteers are willing to put into it. This wouldn't be like the money would be given to a contractor, although that's possible. We have the folks that are willing to put the sweat equity into building this thing. We have relationships with companies that manufacture the pitching machines and the different equipment that goes into it. I don't know if you gentlemen are aware of how many people have come out of our KBR program. Can't talk about softball so much, but Kelso Babe Ruth baseball, how many players have gone on to college educations because we've had quality players, but we also developed the skills of those people. We got several folks that have played at the national level as well. Teams like Giants, Oakland has a baseball team. Someone told me, and we had a player that played there a little while, but I'm not sure of that. I don't know.
Still haven't figured it out.
The fact of the matter is, everything we do to get kids out of their electronic devices, improve their skills, give them an opportunity to learn interpersonal skills by team play, we ought to be doing. And you know what? If we want to increase tourism in this county, this is a way that's going to guarantee that we're going to do it. Because that's the last thing we need to be a real destination point for teams. Team play.
Yeah, I agree.
So in this plan, would you be looking at a single batting cage, or is this going to be multiple?
This is going to be large enough to facilitate both baseball and softball, so that you can have teams from both sports at the same time in there, and it would be open year round. It also provides space for pitching, which is key. And, if kids, when the sport's not being played, need to maintain their skill level or want to have special coaching to increase their skill level, that space would be available. I guarantee you, if you talk to KSD, Kelso School District, about the use of their cage over there, it's year round and it's small, but it was what we could afford at the time, quite frankly.
So they just be an open opportunity for people to come and use it, no cost to the teams or the players. Where would you, I'm trying to think of the layout of Tamashanner Park. Where would you put that thing in there?
We did the initial research. Our public works people went, and if you take a look at the softball field, there's some open areas just to the east of that that have everything, the water infrastructure, the electrical systems are already in place. So the pad would just be placed there and then the metal building put up. One of the chief things is our ability to access the basic pitching equipment. Over the years, folks have come out of Kelso that have played professional baseball, have developed a relationship with those manufacturers. So we've got some built-in advantages. We have people in this community, construction companies, electrical contractors, all those people are willing to come in. I had one individual tell me, we'll wire this building from top to bottom, Jim, and all we'll do is we'll ask our guys to do it on a volunteer basis. So we've had remarkable support from the community over 35 years. I bring that up because, gosh, I'm getting old, and that's how long I've been involved in this. So
Sounds like a very worthwhile project to me.
if you could just talk to
can-
folks and think about this in some way, assist us.
You know, RCO does this, some of this stuff through parks, maybe we'll partner. We get funds every once in a while, like we did with Lassie's. You talked about that.
Yes, and thank you again.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll forget about it. A little history. It would have been probably, I was 15, so maybe about 1972 or so. I played a Babe Ruth State tournament there.
You probably have fond memories.
Yeah, I remember we opened against Everett and lost, and then went through the losers bracket and then played Everett again for the championship. Lost again. I happened to be on the mound that second time.
I've been there.
Yeah.
One last thing, and gentlemen, this is concerning part of my walk around Kelso. I wanted to visit as many of the small gas stations, the small markets as possible, because it came to my attention that we have a real serious issue with nitrous oxide being sold in small canisters. Absolutely available to anybody. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I can tell you, if Sheriff Brad were here, he could probably give you a lot more information than I have. But gentlemen, that product is available, and kids can get it themselves, or they know somebody on campus that can get it to them. I don't know if the county has any ability whatsoever to look at how that needs to be strictly controlled. I just don't know, but I can tell you, if you talk to the cops on the street, if you talk to people in the school districts, that product is readily available. And you know what? Kids are gonna be kids. And word spreads fast, not only as to the source, but according to some, the fun in using it, which we know is nothing but bad news. So I just wanted to bring that up as well.
Yeah, I think that's been brought to our attention before, Mr. Hill. I don't remember who it was that told us. Maybe it was Dana, talked about the fact that
Oh,
that stuff's available.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
At the gas stations. And we talked about what possible options we do have with regards to that.
Look into it, please.
Yeah.
I mean, it's serious.
Yeah, but I want to bring up one thing, Mr. Hill. I'm glad that you brought up the Kelso batting cage thing, because it's something that I'm passionate about also. I've worked down there with Travis Keel for a long time. I've coached with him, and all my kids went through Kelso Babe Ruth. And everything that you said is 100% accurate. When we travel for baseball tournaments, for example, when we go to the RAC up at Olympia, it's tough to find a hotel room, and all the restaurants are full, and there's people everywhere at those tournaments. So from an economic standpoint, it would definitely be a driver. But the other thing that you said that I feel is very important is about the kids getting out and doing something productive.
Yeah.
Right now, because of the limited space and availability that we have with our batting cages, my youngest son who's playing baseball, he has practice at 9 o'clock at night in the cage because there's too many teams for what we have available. So
Yes,
they're going
countywide.
into- yeah, they're going into the cage at 9 o'clock at night until 10
Wow.
to have practice. And so it's something that our community obviously values, having their children involved in sports and what they get out of being involved in sports, which I am a huge proponent of, and believe that they're not only learning skill sets to play a sport, they're learning skill sets for life.
Yes.
And I have talked with Travis multiple times about a batting cage and what we can do. And you're exactly right. The people that would volunteer and that would come out and help with that project, it would be done. I have no doubt in my mind. When we go to and have volunteer days to take care of that field at Reister, I would say the majority of that was done through volunteer work at Reister with the donations.
It took
that
us
we got.
25 years to do it.
Yeah.
25 years to get the
It's-
money together.
It's pretty amazing.
Yes.
And I not only feel that it would be a valuable economic tool for Kelso and the county, but I agree with you. It gives the kids something productive to do, 100%.
And just think about what an experience kids would have if we had international teams here. The fact of the matter is professional folks in colleges start looking at kids real hard, 15, 16 years of age. And to have an international exhibition team come here and play in our city to allow our kids to be exposed to those things, that's a remarkable thing. We darn near did it, gentlemen, in 2019. We truly did. We were close. We can get there again, quite frankly. But all I'm asking, if you could figure out a way to help us do it, if you could talk to your friends at very high level within the state, there's money available for this project. Kelso, we don't have a lot of money. We would desperately need funding from the outside to make it happen. But you know what? It's for the kids.
Well, and I think it would be a great project to piggyback. We're, if I remember correctly, I believe it's in phase 3 of the Public Facilities District capital project that we're doing over at the fairgrounds. There's a sports complex
Yes.
that is in that. And this would be
Yeah.
a great piggyback for Kelso to have that batting cage
Yeah.
in there also.
You know, you talk about places selling out, the hub up in Centralia,
Yeah.
the hub up in there. The friend of mine that built the La Quinta there that is looking at the hotel down there. When they have sports events up there, like in May, he was sold out for May months ago
Mhm.
at over $300 a night. I mean, people come into town for these things.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. He was sold out like in February for May because they knew this big event was coming in. And it would do the same thing down here.
Every business in our county would benefit in one way or another from all of that tourism possibility. Gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate your time, Jim.
Thank you.
Anything else? Been a day, huh? We didn't just get it over with quick this time. Okay, if nothing else, we will adjourn. Thank you for your time.